The last type of bone cell that we have is an osteoclast. Now, a clast is going to be a suffix that represents breakdown. So we've got the breakdown of bone. And so what an osteoclast does is it basically is going to free up minerals that are stored in bone, in that hard matrix of bone, and it frees it up by breaking down the bone. It physically or chemically actually breaks down the bone and sets it free. So this osteoclast, the cell type, originates in the red bone marrow, and it comes from monocytes. As you can see in this image, it's got multiple nuclei, so it's a multinucleated cell. It performs what we call osteolysis, or lysis of bone cells. So it's the breakdown of bone, and this is especially important in remodeling of bone. So these guys develop from the same bone marrow stem cells that give rise to the blood cells because they're originating from bone marrow. And they're very large because it's the fusion of several stem cells that makes them. They can have 3 to 4 and up to 50 nuclei. So when we say they're multinucleated, they can have many nuclei in each osteoclast. They form something called a ruffled border. This would be kind of an example of a ruffled border that faces the bone, and it's this ruffled border that's going to basically increase the surface area exposure of the osteoclast to the bone so that it can really break down more bone and release more enzymes to break more bone down and release more minerals. These cells that break down the bone matrix and resorb it are going to secrete 2 things to help do that. One thing that the osteoclasts secrete are lysosomal enzymes. These are enzymes that are going to digest organic matrix. So the organic part of the matrix in bone is going to be digested by these enzymes. And then there's acids that are also released by osteoclasts, and these acids take those inorganic components and turns them into soluble forms. So for instance, calcium salts are converted by these acids into a soluble form that can be moved around and through the blood system or the bloodstream. Components of the membrane of an osteoclast are important because it allows them to do their jobs. So some of these components of the membrane are going to include integrins. And what these integrins do is the integrins allow the osteoclast to be able to bind to the bone matrix. So there's special proteins that allow for that binding between the cell and the bone matrix. Podosomes are special attachments that osteoclasts have and form to basically seal off a region of the bone. And so when it seals it off, anything that gets broken down as a result of these secretions by the osteoclast will not escape. They'll stay here in this region that the osteoclast has basically sealed off. There are also some ATP-driven hydrogen pumps and acidic vesicles that are going to enable the osteoclast to release acid and really work on the bone matrix and convert that calcium into the calcium salts of the bone matrix into that soluble form we talked about. There's also going to be those enzymes that are going to be released or secreted from the osteoclast to allow for further digestion of the bone matrix. These ATP hydrogen pumps are going to actually help the osteoclast maintain the acidic environment needed to complete breaking down the bone matrix.